Hello and welcome to Northern Nightmares, your home for nightmarish stories through Canada and beyond, and I'm your host Andrew. Today I've got several stories for you that will surely give you nightmares. On episode 6 we explored the world of haunted dolls. Well, today we're going to dive into haunted and cursed objects. Throughout history there's been a few famous objects that have terrified people. Some of these stories are worldly famous, and I'm sure you've heard of them. Let's start with one object that I'm sure will surprise you. On February 8th, 1931, famous future actor James Dean was born. Dean was known as an iconic actor of the 50s, usually fitting in the teenage angst role. He was famously known for his movies Rebel Without a Cause, Giant, and even East of Eden. Rebel Without a Cause was the role that defined Dean in his trope. It was a cinematic masterpiece that dived into the emotional roller coaster of a teenage life. Dean was awarded a posthumous awards in 1956 for special achievement for the film East of Eden, and in 1957 a Golden Globe Renta Award for the World Film Favorite. However, in 1955 Dean was interested in motorsports, more specifically in race cars. His first race car was the Porsche 356 Super Speedster convertible. In March, Dean placed in several major racing events with his Speedster. He competed in his first race at the Palm Springs Road Race and landed second place in the Novice class. In May, Dean finished first in his class, and then he competed in third place of the production car event. At the end of the month, Dean started his next race at 18th place, but managed to work his way up to 4th. However, his race came to an abrupt end when his Speedster had blown a piston, causing him to pull out. During the summer, Dean was banned from racing and he was filming the movie Giant, and due to his schedule, he couldn't compete again until September. After wrapping up the movie near the end of September, Dean couldn't wait to get back behind the wheel. He ended up trading in his Speedster for something that would become more iconic. Dean would be the new owner of a Porsche 550 Spider, later nicknamed the Little Bastard. One evening at an Italian restaurant called Villa Capri in LA, Dean had run into his friend Alec Guinness, who was accompanied with another actress, Thelma Moss. You may know Alec from a movie series that started in the late 70s, Star Wars. More specifically, the original trilogy. He played the wise and powerful Obi-Wan Kenobi, or nicknamed Ben Kenobi. So when Alec and Thelma got to the restaurant, they couldn't get a seat as it was full. However, Dean had noticed the pair and invited them to his table. Before they went in, Dean was excited to show Alec his new car. Upon seeing it, Alec stated that it gave him an eerie, ominous feeling. He told Dean, "Please never get in it. If you get in that car, you'll be found dead in it by this time next week." Hearing this, Dean laughed it off, but Alec was serious about his prediction. So a week later, September 30th, Dean set out from Hollywood to Salinas, California for his next race. He was accompanied with stunt coordinator Bill Hickman, Collier's magazine photographer Sanford Rolfe, and Rolf Wiffwich, a German mechanic from the Porsche factory. Rolf rode shotgun with Dean, and Hickman and Sanford drove behind the duo. Dean figured it would be a great idea to break in the car's engine. This would take up to 5 hours, 298 miles, or 479 kilometers. About 1:45 after a famous photo of Dean was captured when he was filling up the Porsche. Around 3:30 on Highway 99, Dean was ticketed for speeding in a 55 zone. Approximately 5:45, Dean was traveling down west of US 466. When he got to the intersection of US Route 466 and State Route 41, this would be the end of his journey. Traveling at high speed, Dean tried to avoid another driver, 23-year-old Donald Turnipseed, in his 1954 two-door when he left the intersection and turned left across the center line. When both cars collided, Rolf was thrown from the car, but Dean was trapped. Rolf sustained a broken jaw, fractured leg, and other injuries. Turnipseed only suffered minor details. Dean had died from a broken neck and other severe injuries, and he was pronounced dead on arrival when he arrived at the Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital at 6:20 that evening. On this night, we lost this famous and upcoming star so young in his life. However, this isn't the end of the little bastard story, as we now explore the lore of the curse. George Barris, a custom car designer, purchased the wreckage, later selling the engine and transmission to two buyers, William Elsrich and Troy McHenry. During a race in 1956, McHenry used the engine in his race car and later, during the race, veered off the road, hitting a tree and killing him. Elsrich, in another incident, got into an accident and severely got hurt, but walked away. Two tires that were salvaged from Little Bastard were sold to a driver that would later veer off the road because both tires exploded simultaneously. The rest of the car at some point in his life was displayed at an event about highway safety. Reportedly, it fell off its stand twice, once hurting a bystander and another killing a truck driver named George Barkis. In 1959, while in storage in Fresno, the car mysteriously caught fire. The car only suffered minor injuries, but the garage that it was in was badly burnt. In 1960, the Little Bastard was being transported to Miami to LA by train. When it arrived in LA, Little Bastard was gone and never recovered. The only part that's known to remain is a transaxle that resides in the famous Zach Bagans Museum, where it still remains here today. For our next set of stories, I want you to really think about what you may have on display around your homes, as these objects will really make you think twice about what you may put on your walls. Let's begin with a piece of art that gained fame in the 80s. The Crying Boy painting was created by Giovanni Bragolin. This was a pen name by famous Italian painter Brune Armarillo. This painting depicts a young boy weeping, thought to be a street urchin during wartime. The original was likely done with oil paint, but the rest was mass-produced. Why anyone would want a painting of a weeping child is creepy enough in my opinion, but to each their own. What made this painting famous was the fact that many homes mysteriously went up in flames around the UK. However, when firefighters investigated the home, the painting was always unscathed. The first reported case was in Rotherham, UK in 1985 when a home was destroyed, but the painting remained unburnt. A local firefighter was interviewed by the British tabloid The Sun at the time and reported he was involved with 15 more fires that all had the same painting, and each copy survived the blazes. Homes that had these paintings were immediately removed, and a mass bonfire began, destroying every copy throughout the country. Now it is later that a scientific explanation was discovered. These paintings were coated in a fire-retardant varnish that helped them survive these instances. Also, the string attached would burn first, making the painting fall and landing on its front, so making it so the back was the only thing that would have been burnt. But I want to challenge that theory. Okay, sure, it's covered in some special varnish, but wouldn't that only last so long, especially since all these homes were destroyed? It's not the varnish I would be concerned about, it's the fact that so many homes were destroyed in which these paintings existed. Either some form of curse exists, or that it's just a really big coincidence. Also it was later discovered that Giovanni had based the painting on the fact that a boy actually lost his parents in a real fire. So is this a ghost of a child burning down the homes of these people that enjoy looking at his suffering? Or is it really just bad luck for these people? Think about that next time you want to display an ominous piece of art in your home. Our next story takes us all the ways down to St. Francisville, Louisiana, to the famous Myrtle Plantation, where it houses the famous Myrtle Plantation mirror. Trigger warning: if you're not okay with stories about slavery, please just skip this. Fast forward a few minutes. I'm not going to dive deep into slavery, but I'll be mentioning a bit for this mirror. The plantation is a historic and former Cajun and Creole home built in 1796 and owned by Clark and Sarah Woodruff. Reports state that up to 10 murders have been committed in this home, but official records only state one, a man named William Winter. U.S. federal census states only 5 enslaved people lived here in 1820 and 32 in 1930. Legends say that one woman that was unfortunately enslaved, named Chloe, lived here, but official records say otherwise. The story goes that Chloe would often listen to keyholes to Clark's business dealings and other purposes. For why she did this is unsure. However, she was caught either by Clark or Sarah. Her punishment: she had one of her ears cut off. Chloe was later seen with a green turban or headdress to hide her removed ear. After some time, Chloe vowed for revenge. She baked a cake laced with Orlando leaves and gave it to the Woodruffs to consume, possibly a peace offering so that she could be allowed to work close to them again. However, only Sarah and her daughters ate the cake, and later all died. For this act, the other slaves hung Chloe and dumped her body in the Mississippi River for the fear of Clark for harboring her. With records stating that no slave resided here, it's unsure if Chloe was real or not. However, a ghost wearing a green headdress has been seen on the premise. I believe Chloe existed, and I believe she gave the Woodruffs their just desserts. Now, in saying this story, a mirror does reside in the home. Now, with old custom, it's said mirrors are covered up so spirits aren't trapped inside. This mirror was supposedly overlooked, and the souls of Sarah and her daughters reside to this day. Visitors and staff have reported seeing faces, handprints, and other shadowy figures inside this glass. It's also said that whenever handprints appear, staff have a difficult time trying to remove them, or they cannot clean it and simply leave the prints. Visitors also claim having their hair pulled or pushed away from the mirror. Also, cold spots exist in the room the mirror hangs. Any photos taken often capture the image of ghostly figures and other different rooms reflected in the mirror. This is believed to be the Woodruff souls trying to escape their prison. Mirrors are thought to house another dimension. Think of a fun house. You enter a room full of mirrors. You see your exit, but you only run into another mirror. This is thought what the Woodruff souls are forever dealing with. It's not hell, it's not purgatory, but something worse. If you wish to visit the mirror, you can head to the Now Museum. Maybe you'll see the Woodruffs looking back at you. But beware. Next time you look at your own mirror, you may just see something else stare back at you. For our final story, we're going to check out something a little different. This story is worldly renowned for its lore. This is the haunting and tragic story of the famous Hope Diamond. The diamond was originally from India, thought to come from the Kolar mine. Sometime in 1666, it was acquired by a French merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier. The diamond, at the time, was 115 carats. It was later sold to King Louis XIV, which he later cut it down to 67 carats. It was stolen in 1792, disappearing from history for 2 decades. It reappeared in London in the 1800s by a banker named Henry Philip Hope, and the diamond was recut into 45 carats and into what the Hope diamond is today. The diamond remained with the Hope family for many generations until eventually landing in the hands of an American jeweler in 1949 named Harry Winston. Harry showed the diamond off globally until eventually donating it to the Smithsonian Museum in DC, where it resides here today. Now, why is the diamond known to be cursed? Well, it's said that the diamond originally resided in a Hindu statue. The statue depicts the Hindu god Sita. As the story goes, when it was stolen, priests that were at the temple the statue resided cursed the diamond. Whoever possessed the diamond, misfortune would often follow. A pattern of suicides, financial ruin, accidents, and other tragedies would always involve the diamond. When King Louis XIV possessed it, he would die from gangrene and passed it on to his successor, King Louis XV. He would eventually die with Marie Antoinette, in which both were beheaded during the French Revolution, and the diamond was stolen around the same time. When it was acquired from Henry Hope in 1939, he passed it away only a few years later. It was given to his son. His son, also named Henry Hope, had the diamond till 1896, in which he passed it on to his son, Lord Francis Hope. This is where the curse comes back, because Francis lived a very lavish lifestyle. He married an American actress, but misfortune would follow. Both suffered financial ruin. His wife claimed it ruined her acting career, her marriage, and both would end up in poverty. Francis sold the diamond to pay off his debts, but shortly after selling this, Francis would die. The buyer was a Washington socialite, Evelyn Walsh McLean, in the early 19th century. Evelyn, not believing in the curse, wore the diamond and loved owning it. However, she would suffer the death of her son. He was struck down by a car, and her husband would go insane from this, ending up in an insane asylum, later dying here. Evelyn's daughter would later die from an overdose of sleeping pills at 24. All this would drive her to insanity and eventually financial ruin as well. She would eventually die from pneumonia, and her estate was acquired from a local bank and all her possessions later sold. The diamond would be acquired from Harry Winston, an American jeweler. Harry was smart and not touched the cursed diamond. As I said, he showcased the diamond around until selling it to the Smithsonian. So is this diamond cursed, or is it all just a big coincidence? Regardless of what you believe, it is said that anyone who were to touch it or wear it, they would be forever cursed. So, if you would love to visit the Hope Diamond, it's on display at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. I have one more story that I want to call an honorable mention. It doesn't feel like a curse like the other stories, but still brought misfortune for those around it. In 1974, farmers in the Lintung region in China were digging a well. They happened to discover pottery fragments. The Chinese government took over this land, excavating the land only to discover the presence of an estimated 8,000 statues. Back in the ancient days, sometime around 246 to 210 BCE meaning before the Common Era, this would be over 2,000 years ago, Emperor Qin Shi Huang had made statues depicting warriors to protect his tomb after his death. These statues depicted soldiers, horses, chariots, and other figures all standing in front of his buried tomb. It's estimated another 6,000 statues are still on Earth and remain undiscovered as of today. This is called the Terracotta Army, and it is here that you can visit the army at the Emperor's Mausoleum Museum. Now, the curse pertains to the farmers that discovered this massive discovery, as they lost their precious land. With such massive losses, the farmers ended up in poverty. Several farmers committed suicide because of this. As well, a couple farmers died in their 50s, penniless, unable to afford medical care. The remaining were reduced to taking jobs, signing books for minimum pay at the museum. So in the farmer's eyes, this is a curse upon their family and it ruined their livelihood for future generations. Some would also say this is just capitalism, especially as China is a communist country. Regardless of which view you think, it's tragic that this happened to the hard-working farmers that wish this never happened to them. With that, I end this episode for now. I hope you enjoyed these stories. I will say in my research I had a huge list of objects that are considered cursed. However, I want to come back to this world in a later date for a part 3. Some of these objects could even have their own standalone episodes. Like one, for example, is the famous Ouija board. But for now, we will save that for a later date. Next week, I have a story that I've always been interested in. It will be a very disgusting and horrifying story that I'm sure you'll enjoy. So I'll see you again next week. Have a good night, and remember, nightmares are closer than you think.